Okay, I want to start with something that happened to me, and I haven't talked about this publicly before.
Go ahead.
I was in a relationship once where I changed so much, so gradually, so slowly, that by the time it ended, I genuinely didn't recognize myself. The music I listened to, the friends I kept, the way I talked about myself, all of it had shifted. Not because someone forced me, because I loved them and I wanted them to love me back. And I thought, if I just become a little more like what they need, it'll work.
Oh, and did it?
It worked until it didn't. And when it ended, I had to spend a long time figuring out who I actually was underneath everything I'd adjusted.
That's not a small thing to admit.
No, but I think it's more common than people say. And I think it sits right at the center of one of the hardest questions in any relationship. Should you change for someone you love? And if you do, where's the line between growth and disappearing?
Because here's the thing, the answer isn't just yes or no. And I think anyone who gives you a clean answer hasn't thought about it hard enough.
Because on one side, you have, of course you should change. Relationships require compromise, maturity. You can't just stay exactly who you are and expect someone else to perfectly accommodate that forever. Growth is part of love.
And on the other side, if you change too much for the wrong reasons in the wrong direction, you end up in a relationship with someone who fell in love with the person you no longer are, and you've lost yourself in the process.
So the question isn't really should you change? The question is what kind of change? Driven by what? And service of what?
Exactly. Because there are changes that make you more yourself. And there are changes that make you less.
I think the distinction that matters most is whether the change is coming from inside or outside. Like, are you changing because you genuinely see something in yourself that you want to work on? Something you'd want to change regardless of this person? Or are you changing because you've absorbed the message, spoken or unspoken, that who you are right now isn't quite enough?
And that message can be incredibly subtle. It doesn't always come as criticism. Sometimes it comes as a preference. I just find it more attractive when someone is more like this. I don't really connect with that part of you. I wish you were a little more...
And because you love them, you file it away. And you start quietly editing yourself.
Without even deciding to, it just happens. You stop mentioning certain things, you dress differently, you soften the parts of yourself that seem to land wrong, and each individual adjustment seems small, reasonable even.
But they accumulate.
They accumulate until one day you catch yourself censoring a genuine reaction, a real opinion, a true feeling before it even leaves your mouth. And you realize the editing has gone internal. You're not just changing your behavior anymore, you're changing your thoughts before you even have them fully.
That's the moment it becomes something else entirely.
That's the moment love starts to cost you something it shouldn't.
But okay, I want to push back here, because I think sometimes the person we are at the start of a relationship genuinely needs work. Like sometimes we have patterns that are harmful, defensive behaviors, emotional immaturity, things that have nothing to do with our core self, but that are getting in the way of real connection. And a partner can sometimes see those things more clearly than we can.
That's completely true. And a loving relationship absolutely should make you better, should stretch you, should show you parts of yourself you couldn't see alone.
So what's the difference between that and the other kind?
I think it comes down to two things. First, does the change come with acceptance of who you are right now, even as it invites growth? Because there's a difference between someone who loves you and also believes in a better version of you, and someone who is tolerating who you are while waiting for you to become someone more acceptable to them.
One feels like being held. The other feels like being evaluated.
All the time. And you can feel the difference even when you can't name it. One makes you want to grow. The other makes you want to hide.
And the second thing?
The second thing is, are you changing toward yourself or away from yourself? Because genuine growth always moves you toward a more authentic version of who you are. It removes the things that aren't really you, the fears, the defenses, the old coping mechanisms, but it doesn't remove you. If the change is making you feel more like yourself, more present, more honest, more free, that's growth. If it's making you feel smaller, more cautious, more careful about what you reveal, that's erosion.
Ugh, and erosion is so slow, you don't notice it while it's happening.
You only notice it when you stop. When you're suddenly in a quiet room with yourself and you realize how much effort it takes just to be natural. How long it's been since you said something completely unfiltered.
And I think there's a version of this that's specifically about people who love deeply, because the people most at risk of losing themselves in relationships are often the ones who feel the most, who care the most, who would genuinely do anything for the people they love.
Because changing feels like proof of love. The more I'm willing to adjust, the more I'm showing you how much I care.
And sometimes the other person isn't even asking for it. Sometimes you're doing it preemptively, just in case, smoothing your own edges before anyone even asks you to.
People pleasing with a romantic soundtrack.
Exactly. And then you resent them for it, even though they never asked, because you gave something they didn't request, and now you feel the loss of it, and they don't even know there was anything to lose.
That's such a specific kind of loneliness.
The loneliness of having disappeared quietly by your own hand for someone who might have loved the real version just as much.
Maybe more. So what's the actual answer then? Should you change for someone you love?
I think you should grow, constantly, relentlessly. But growth has a direction, toward yourself, toward honesty, toward the fullest version of who you actually are. And love should be the environment that makes that growth possible, not the price you pay for acceptance.
Change that costs you yourself isn't love, it's audition.
And you shouldn't have to audition for someone who genuinely loves you. You should be able to walk in as the real, unedited, sometimes difficult version of yourself, and have that be enough to start with.
Not perfect, not finished, just real.
Because the relationship that requires you to be less than you are to survive, that relationship is already built on a fault line. Eventually, the real you will push through, and the gap between who you were performing and who you actually are will have to be reckoned with.
Better to show up as yourself from the beginning, even if it's scary.
Especially because it's scary. Because the love that finds you when you're fully visible, that's the only kind worth having.
That's the one that actually holds.
Yeah.
If you've ever felt yourself shrinking inside a relationship, adjusting, editing, becoming quieter in ways you didn't choose, we hope tonight reminded you of something. You were enough before you started changing, and whatever parts of yourself you've set aside, they're still there, waiting to come back.
Thanks for being up with us.
3 a.m. Talks. We'll see you next time.